Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Joining us now, our friend, Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, who joins us every month. And this time he's on, obviously, for breaking news stories from yesterday. AG Ellison, nice to see you. Thanks very much. And, I can only imagine the heartache going on. I saw the interview with Tim Walz. I saw you on other shows. I saw the mayor of Minneapolis. I mean, I know there could be a possible prosecution of the ICE agent, and that, well, let me start with there. What could possibly happen? I don't know if there's any decisions been made. What do your officers do now?
Well, what we start with a quality investigation.
Mm-hmm.
We start with gathering all the video. We start with gathering, examining the car, the placement of all the persons. A few things are not disputed. The officer shot this woman to death. That happened.
Right.
Now, the question is there any legal justification or defense that they might be able to set up? And so then there's, clearly some legal research that needs to be done. But there is no reason why accountability cannot happen in this situation. I would say that people in the administration have said that a federal agent can kill anyone they want, do any crime they want, and there's complete immunity. That is legally wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and a disservice to the agent. Because one of the things that's going to keep an agent within the boundaries of the law is knowing that there's accountability. You
Right.
tell them there is none when there is. That's poor. That's a poor situation right there. So yeah, I mean the look. I know that the public wants strident, strong language, but this needs to start with an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
With if you're watching or listening to this, and you got video or information, or if you were just a witness, we need you to contact the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and share that information. And let's get all the information we can from as many angles as we can to help really illuminate what really happened in those critical moments. But I tell you this, Dean, aside from what Miss Renee Nicole Good saw or heard or felt or what she intended, and regardless of what the agent saw or heard or felt or what he intended, apart from that, this really is the fault of the President of the United States. Surging this big number of agents, telling them for months now that they're completely immune, telling them that the people they're literally hunting down are garbage, that they are drug addicts and they eat cats and dogs, and that it's okay for you to do this to them because they're somehow beneath the dignity of a normal human being. I mean, the fact that they're allowed to wear masks and don't have to identify themselves, violating basic procedural justice. You know, this is the fault of the president. It is, and it's the fault of Christy Gnome as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very concerned about the fairness of an investigation, even in the best of times. I mean, the best of times. Imagine this is the Obama era, whatever. Um, it's not easy to get a federal investigation of a federal agent's conduct and then a subsequent prosecution. The barriers are very high, even in the best of times. When you got Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, and Bondi's the head of the DOJ, and Gnome, the head of the Homeland Security, you really got a real problem when it comes to accountability, justice, and truth. None of them consider that a priority. And so this is a real challenge that we're facing, but we're not without tools, and we should use them to the maximum that we can.
So just so it's clear for people, when Stephen Miller in October on Fox News said to all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties, that does not mean they're immune from committing crimes and being prosecuted in states for violating state laws.
Right. They cannot commit crimes, and they're not immune from committing crimes. There's no immunity for federal agents to break state laws, criminal laws.
That's good to know. And I also want to touch on, you mentioned Christy Gnome. You're telling us now an investigation has to happen, and that's the way it has to be. You're the top law enforcement agent officer of your state. Christy Gnome said yesterday, very quickly, that what happened was, quote, an act of domestic terrorism. Is there any evidence that you've seen to back up her allegation that this 37-year-old mother of three who was dropping off her 6-year-old, Renee Nicole Good, was somehow involved in terrorism?
It is a slur and a smear of her good name. It's terrible that the secretary would say that. And it is terrible that those words can escape the mouth of a law enforcement official who's supposed to be dedicated to finding the truth, who's supposed to be dedicated to legal processes. I mean, I would expect her to say something like, well, this is a tragic incident. We're investigating it. We'll get to the bottom of what really happened. That was not what she said. She immediately, before she knew anything, just said that not only that Miss Good was at fault for her own death, but that she was a domestic terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible and defies anything remotely connected to logic. This is a paramilitary organization that is abusing the people of Minneapolis as it has abused the people of Portland and Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. and Chicago.
So, I mean, what are your concerns when a top administration official would come out and lie to defend the killing of an American, which might turn out to be a homicide? It might actually turn out to be a murder.
It's clearly a homicide.
All right, so it's
Whether
clearly
it's a murder
tell us
or
what that
not,
means.
we'll find out.
So is homicide, well, how about this? Let's take a step back. Could you tell people in general, not specific to this case in general, what's the standard for when officers can use deadly force involving a car?
Yeah.
Kind of setting.
So a homicide is death at the hands of another.
Okay.
That's just that's a homicide.
It's not criminal. Right.
As opposed to suicide, as opposed to accidental death, as opposed to unknown. This is a known cause. A bullet was discharged from the hand of the officer into her body, and it caused her death. It's clearly a homicide. Now, the question becomes, are there any legal defenses? And I just want to point out to your listening audience, when I say legal defense, I don't mean moral defenses.
Right. I understand.
There's a grand canyon of difference between legal and moral, right?
Yep.
But there might be some legal defense they can mount, like the supremacy clause, like, some sort of an immunity that is connected to that. And, and they'll be able to assert that. But then that has legal conditions. So when a guy like Miller says complete immunity, there's not complete immunity, but there might be immunity, which means that there's a conditional immunity. And if, something like this happens in the course of an officer operating within the boundaries of their duties, and but look, is it your duty to shoot somebody who's trying to get away from you? That's not your duty. So there is clearly an open question as to whether any sort of an immunity would apply. And I think that that's the issue that we're looking at right now. So
right. And sorry. And so if you were to find any officer, I don't want to comment on this case.
Right.
If a nice officer committed a crime or he killed somebody, then that person could be charged under state law based on your investigation. And then they have certain defenses they can assert in court, but they're still going to have to go. So in general, in the case of Renee Nicole Good, can we rule out a few things? Was she wanted on a warrant? Were there any warrants for her arrest? No.
Nope.
Was she a fleeing felon? Had they observed her commit some kind of felony that you're aware of?
I would say no. None that I'm aware of.
So we're getting to the point where this is a traffic violation at worst in the streets of Minneapolis. And look, I used to do traffic law. I was a municipal prosecutor for a few years. I can't think of a time where the police would shoot at somebody because either they were blocking traffic or they were trying to move away when they were told to. They would just let the person drive away and then pursue them later for a traffic violation. They have their license plate. It's not an issue. So I'm trying to make sense of this. And again, not specific to this case because you're the AG, but what was going on here is beyond me. And I don't know if we're missing something.
Me either.
Yeah, I'm talking with AG Keith Ellison. So look, I mean, we all have to be concerned, all of us on a human level, forget law, forget politics. If this administration could kill someone on a video that we see like this, their officials, and then it's defended by lying, by saying it's an act of terrorism, like the way Christy Gnome. I mean, that opens all of us to being potentially killed by the Trump regime and then defended and smeared like we would in a foreign adversary, let's say, over time, like saying that killing us is okay. Isn't there a bigger concern beyond the law, beyond politics, about this rogue administration?
Well, what it's saying is that what is terrorism? Anything I don't like.
Yeah.
That's what terrorism is in Christy Nome's mind. If you do something she doesn't appreciate you doing, you're a terrorist in her brain. You know, and I served with her,
Oh, you did.
and
Yeah.
I never knew what kind of crazy was going on inside her head. I just never knew. She seemed like a normal enough person. She's clearly conservative. I'm a progressive Dem. And so I knew we weren't on the same page on a lot of things, but I never knew that she was in another universe, another galaxy when it comes to her view of the world. Or does she know what she's doing is morally repugnant and wrong and completely deceitful and dishonest, but her ambition
Mhm.
overrides everything? Is that it? I don't know.
Brother, those are excellent questions. And, I was looking back at what Christy Nome has said over this year and defending what's been going on by ICE. This is the person who was in Los Angeles in June defending Senator Padilla being roughed up by ICE agents trying to ask her a question. And she literally said, we're in Los Angeles to, quote, to liberate the city from socialists and the burdensome leadership that this governor and mayor have placed on this city and this state. And you're like, this is like language of liberation after a war. And now, if you oppose her, I think you make a great point. She's at a war setting. She's in a war mindset that it's us. It's like after 9/11, except you're either us or the terrorists, and we were all the terrorists in our mindset. And my point is, if you dehumanize us, the opponents to that point, you could kill us. History tells us we should be alerted. Horrible things have happened through time when you dehumanize the other side. And that's what it seems like Trump, Miller, and Noam are about. And that's what's
Yeah.
deeply, deeply
Well,
concerning.
based on the things they've said, based on what's come out of their mouth. Nobody's making up anything on them.
It's, in June you were on, I was looking, we were talking about at the time, Tim Walz being concerned. At that time, Trump had sent in a big swath of ICE agents. And Tim Walz said then it's chaotic. And that I don't think any professionals, especially law enforcement or the military, tells you do they want chaos like this? And the point the governor made yesterday is your officers are not even consulted with. ICE just floods. Thousands of officers come in without any communications. It doesn't seem to be an efficient or an approach that should be taken. They should work with your agencies and or at least alert you when they're coming to
No, they don't
the
do
state.
that. They don't do that. It's so what see here's what they appear to do because there's been a great network of community observers who are
Mhm.
who are pretty good at keeping track of them. If there is a mercado, or like a Latino store or something, or if there's a restaurant, or if there's a Somali one, or if there is a some neighborhood where there's a high number of immigrant families, they just sort of terrorize those places. They kind of go, they ask people, where are you from? Stuff like that.
Right.
Um, Intimidating language, uh, masking all the time, tough guy behavior. Um, and then, it all culminates in what they did to Miss Good, which is to kill her. Um, and it's incredible to tear her name down like that. I mean, the poor woman is gone to her children, to her mom, to people who know her and love her, and yet they're gonna say that she was a terrorist, and it's just beyond cruel, and it's hard to capture in words. But one thing's for sure: Minnesotans are not intimidated. We're not bullied. We're
Right.
not daunted. We're not afraid, and we're going to stand up and do what we got to do to protect the rights of the people of this country and our state.
Yeah, Representative Ilhan Omar said that Renee Good was a legal observer.
She
And
was.
can you share what that means?
That means that you get training, and what you do is you just monitor law enforcement conduct to make sure that they're operating within the law. If they don't, you don't intervene, you document. And you document by taking notes and taking photographic information and recording what you're seeing with various things, whether electronic or just with your own powers of observation. That's what she was doing. And if you watch the tape, she was not she was in her car.
Right.
They came to her. They could have easily just said, "Hey, you get out of here," or you.
Mhm.
But they didn't. They tried to pull her out of the car, and then they shot her.
Yes, and we've seen that. So there were protests last night in Minneapolis. Anything? Do you expect more protests? And were they effective? Were they large? Were they peaceful?
They were peaceful, and we want to urge people to continue to be peaceful. We want to urge people to just remember that Trump is looking for an excuse. This is the kind of mentality we're dealing with. But that if we stick and we stay, we'll prevail. The First Amendment gives people the right to protest.
Right.
You're never going to hear me tell people not to protest. People have a right to protest. They must protest. And by the way, the First Amendment also protects free and independent media, Dean. So bless you and your team, Aaron and Matt and everybody. And we've got to exert this First Amendment rights that we have in order to get to a moment when freedom can prevail again. This is tyranny. It really is. This is a tyrannical government with a paramilitary group of Gestapo style people abusing the rights of the people of this country. That's what's going on. And it's not, and here's the thing. You
Mhm.
might think, you might think, well, I'm not an immigrant, so I'm not worried. Miss Good was not an immigrant. You might think, well, I might be an immigrant, but I don't commit crimes, so I'm not worried. Most people who've been arrested, harassed, abused, and mistreated have no criminal record at all. At all. Nothing. So, and then I heard somebody say, well, I actually heard an African immigrant say, well, this is more an issue for the Latinos, isn't it? I'm like, no, no, friend. They're looking at you. And I heard some people in the Latino community say, well, the Somalis have been connected to fraud, so this is maybe on them. This is their fault. I said, no, no, no. This is an attack on all. That's who it's an attack on. This is an aspiring fascist dictator tyrant trying to impose by force will and dominance on the population. That's what's happening. And the sooner we all wake up to it, the sooner we'll be able to be free of it.
And it's so important, I think, this to show the big picture here. I mean, this is the same week that Donald Trump kidnapped the leader of Venezuela to take their oil, and now is taking their oil, and according to reporting, wants to put the proceeds into an account offshore where he can dole out. I'm not even kidding. That was a reporting yesterday, but he's saying he wants to dole it out. He's been killing people in international waters with no due process in violation of international law, been using DOJ to prosecute his enemies, political enemies, from Jimmy Kimmel to getting him off the air to Tish James to renaming buildings after himself, after building a ballroom in his name, renaming the Kennedy Center. A.G. Ellison, if you read about this in any other country, you'd have no hesitation to go, that's not a democratic republic. That's a fascist state. That's a dictatorship. It's some kind of hybrid at best. That's what we live in now. I don't think people understand. It's not, can it happen here? It's here. It's not happening. It's
It's
here. We're in the
here.
middle of
It's
it.
not about to happen. It is happening,
Right.
and it's happening with the complete and utter complicity of the Republican House and many Senate. Now, some people on the Republican side are starting to say no. I mean, I was glad to see, Rand Paul say, hey, this could be a problem. I'm glad to see Tom Massey speaking up. Not enough are. And, there is an issue of timing here.
Mhm.
If we wait, I mean, when you got Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, hold on, wait a minute,
Yeah.
then you got a real problem. There was nobody more MAGA dedicated than her. And so now some of these people, like let's say Mike Johnson, he's not really MAGA. He's not really anything other than a sycophant and a suck up and will do anything that Trump says. There's no scenario in which JD Vance or Mike Johnson or these people ever come up with a principled position on anything. They have
Yep.
one principle alone, and that is proximity to power, personal advancement. That's it.
Yep. I agree. The last two things, any time frame for your investigation into
No,
the
no
shooting?
time frame because fast as possible, urgent, you know. But whenever you start putting timelines on an investigation, the second you break the timeline, you disappoint people, then they're mad and feel angry at
True.
you. So you've got to, you don't want to set expectations that you know you can't meet. What I'm saying is the timeline is now, urgent, right away.
That's good to hear. And very last thing, because you brought up JD Vance and you also brought up other immigrants. Last night he was on with Jesse Waters, and JD Vance said America has a bit of a Somali problem. And I'm like, that's kind of jarring for the vice president of the United States to say we have a Somali, because don't forget, we had a Muslim problem. Remember Trump in 2016, Islam hates us and all this stuff. So now it's pivoted to blacks who are overwhelmingly Muslim, but it's making the Somali community in your state the enemy of America. Now that's the new thing. What's your reaction to that?
Third Reich shit, man. It's all of it. It's Third Reich shit. I mean, so Germany had a Jewish problem. So, this is so some country may have had a Roma problem. So you name a country and you name a persecuted minority, and we know what happens. And you know who knows what happens? J.D. Vance knows what happens. He's the one who said Trump could be a Hitler. Oh, do you think he'll put me on the team? I mean, it's amazing. It's utterly shocking. And by the way, J.D. Vance makes clearly racial white supremacy statements on a regular basis nowadays. It's time for us to stop apologizing for being white. I'm like, I've never heard anybody make such an apology. What are you talking about? But what it does is it makes people feel like, yeah, we're not going to I mean, who makes apologies for being not mainstream? I mean, whenever you see a black person straighten their hair, that's an apology for being black. You know what I mean? I'm not kidding. Whenever you see a person get a surgery to shorten their nose, that's an apology for not being European. I mean, there are people who make you put the skin lightening stuff on your face. That's an apology for being who you are. I've never heard anybody say, I'm so sad. Let me say I'm sorry for being white. Never heard that. And now I'm not saying, friends, that there's not a lot of really progressive, forward-thinking white people who believe in the humanity of all. There's a lot of people like that.
Mhm.
But that's not what J.D. Vance was talking about. He
Oh
was
no.
trying to give license for racism. Simple as that. And he does that pretty frequently nowadays.
Well, he's getting ready to be the 2028 nominee, the leader of MAGA. That's what MAGA runs on, folks. America runs on Duncan. MAGA runs on white supremacists. That's how
Yeah.
it goes. So,
And let me just remind everybody listening, white supremacists don't like white people. White supremacists are not trying to figure out how to get you health care, increase your wages, or make sure you got a nice home to live in. They don't give a shit about any of that. What they care about is you being loyal to them. And that's what it's about.
well,
It's a
AG Ellison, I want
power.
to thank you. I want to thank you, my friend, for making some time, brother, especially with everything going on. I wish you the best, and we look forward to the investigation. And I have the 100% confidence in you, in your work and your investigation, and I look forward to seeing the results.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Take